most impressive on an energetic level to me, Chris, too, was observing, again, energetically how, you had a lot of strong musicians in there, and
Yeah.
at some points there was a lot of male kind of energy going, and how one would anticipate, again, this competitive, and once in a while it would rise up, but then someone else would dovetail, and it would blend.
Yeah.
And that unison, that unifying, it became this unifying field.
Yeah.
Like Laaraji always talks about the unified field. And
That's the NOUS, right?
that's right, yeah. And that was
The NOUS.
very cool to experience that.
Yeah.
With people who had their own, wanting to showcase and then kind of tapping in. It had almost like a kirtan, a moment's call and response quality to it, which was very sacred.
And just to mention, like the group was obviously a very talented, very diverse group of
Yes.
of people from all kinds of various projects that came together for that.
It felt like a classic jam, and a classic where you're, especially in a country setting, in a nice barn, like this was a church.
Yeah, it
a
was an
real
old
church
pretty
with
much.
lots of instruments and musicians without a tight agenda of what we're going to do, and let it spell itself out. Have fun, interact, listen for surprises, go with the flow, surrender to the euphoria, and just hope that the engineer and the mics are capturing it all.
Yeah. Yeah. This session was when I had originally thought about the NOUS project. I had envisioned this. My idea was to try to bring like the experience of like a retreat container, where we did every morning. You guys never saw this, but every morning we gathered. Well, first off, asana was offered like at 9 a.m. Yoga, stretchy poses, commonly called asana, and for people out there. And I had a teacher friend come in, Allison Sinatra, a very amazing teacher, so that people could do yoga first thing. And then we started at like 9 or 10. I think at 10 we gathered sitting in a group around all kinds of percussion, hand percussion, mainly crystal bowls, shakers, little drums, etc. And I had a routine with a lot of different exercises where we started first in silence. I know I mentioned this to you guys before, but we would do sitting meditations, so starting from silence, and then we would then do chanting, Om. There would be kind of some various presentations of leading through chanting, starting with usually obviously an Om, and then like vocalization exercises, encouraging people to be improvisatory with their voice, and also giving them kind of mantras or toning ideas. And then we would move from that to body percussion exercises, where we'd play body percussion to, feel rhythm in our bodies and to stimulate, energetically the points of the body. And then from that, we would move to hand percussion. You could use an instrument and voice, like one of the instruments in front, crystal bowls or whatever. And then from that, and you could also, were encouraged to get up and move, dance to start, as Laaraji and I both are. Are you involved in Five Rhythms too? Yeah, and then after all that, so we've emerged from total silence to, then we pick up our instruments and start the day recording. So we go to the drums, we go to our instruments. So the idea was to stimulate from the silence through the body, through like the sheaths the body, and then out externally into your electric instruments. And then the idea was at the end of the day to reverse that process and bring it back into the silence. It never worked actually, because it was the evening was so tired. Like people were so tired, you didn't really get to do that evening session. But anyway, so my idea was to try to bring these concepts of sound healing into like a recording project for musicians. A lot of musicians who might actually, some had some experience with it, but some it was really foreign to them. There was definitely miscalculation about how that should or could be presented to people that necessarily, weren't really knowing what they were getting into in a way. But at the same time, I think there was certainly moments, I think, where it opened up and people appreciate. I hope that there was moments that they
I'm
definitely
sure.
appreciated it.
And when it's something that new to an individual, you can trust that something bubbled up.
Yeah.
Well,
Undeniably, it led to some. I mean, I don't know if that was a causation or what kind of causation it was. It was some kind of causation, of course, but it led to an extraordinarily creative session. From 4 albums that are all, quite unique. And my point in bringing that all up was that our session was actually like my vision, that the
whole
pinnacle
thing.
of the vision.
Okay.
It was kind of like how I imagined the sessions, like manifesting. It took you guys to kind of come in and then thank you, because you made my dreams come true.
Oh, in Dreamland.
In Dreamland. No, in Dreamland, that's funny.
Was
No,
that
no,
the
no.
name of the studio?
Yes,
Dreamland.
Dreamland.
Oh,
Yeah. But I mean, just the energy of that session. We had that energy at different times, but like, it really what I was kind of envisioning was the energy that you guys ended up being a part of and being
Well,
a main
thank
factor
you.
for causing it to ripen.
I appreciate your inclusion of us and trusting on 2 unknowns to you, and following the greater guru.
Yeah.
It was a remarkable undertaking on your part, and I think back after, not thinking about it for very long until you reached out to us. I had forgotten how much you had to juggle. It's extraordinary, the number of people, the locations, the equipment,
The performances. 2 performances, big ones.
There
The one
was so much.
Yeah.
Christopher, I've said to Laraaji, I don't know how you wore that many hats, and managed it, because it really was an extraordinary undertaking.
Well, I had, Cecilia was a huge help, Kevin was a huge help, and of course the players are all, amazing what they brought to the table. So, I didn't do it, but it was definitely, which is very, particularly of that, it's something I'm trying to learn from as I've now hit my 40s. But I very easily imagined things that were way bigger than I could essentially chew or manage. So I try to be more conscious of what the mind can conjure up. The papancha, as they say, like in Pali, the proliferation of the mind can really create many problems. So when I design a project now, I'm trying to be much more like conscious of not making it too complicated. And actually, my collaboration with Gareth Jones and NOUS Alpha has been a huge, actually, help in just a conceptual development, because he's a minimalist, electronic minimalist. He's done so many amazing albums. And then knowing you guys, like I see how you have managed touring around the world, and having to manage that setup. And Laraaji, I assume that's something that you've been conscious of for a long time, living in Harlem and having to play around the city all the time and carrying a New York City musician learns how to scale down pretty quickly.
Make it manageable and effective.
Yeah.
I use the term compact, lightweight, and portable.
That's it.
Yeah. But at the same time, there's something magic about big chaos that nothing can replicate. It's like many orchestral pieces,
Yes.
are so big and epic and complex, and some people might not like them, but they have a very extraordinary identity or experience,
Well, I encourage you to reverse roles here a moment, to continue to think big and grand. That's your nature. and to allow yourself the recognition of that and self-honoring, It's essential to. It's not ego when you do it with the humility and awareness that you bring, recognizing that it comes from a greater source directing. It can't help but evolve into something really gorgeous and meaningful.
Yeah.
So there are people who are meant, like Gareth, to be minimalist in nature. There are people who are not meant to
Well, Gareth
be.
calls me a maximalist.
Well, I like that. and it's not to be underrated.
Yeah, and that's what our collaboration, that's what's so special about our collaboration. It's the maximalist and the minimalist
And you
challenging
hit a
each
balance.
other, pushing each other, and then we meet in the middle.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's the middle path.
Yeah, and I think that when collaborations like that happen, what's beautiful about it is it brings you to your middle, right? Like
Yeah.
you experience more of the middle, which is
You're
the more wholesome
centering.
aspect of yourself.